Good evening, everyone. So happy to present tonight about the Pear Deck and Edulastic. These were tools which were just saved my life in teaching last year as we're doing distance learning. I'm so glad to be back in the classroom this year. We are wearing masks in our classroom and teaching live. So next slide. Right. So I'm doing a lot of the year, starting with which one doesn't belong. So here's a picture I showed my students at just the first week of school. Which one doesn't belong? Tried to make it easy. These were just pictures of a meal I had over the summer, and it was motivation to ask the students, well, how would you describe it, right? So the students might not know which quadrant, so they would say maybe, well, the upper left one or the top right one. So eventually, I would say, well, there's an easier way. We just name the quadrants. Quadrant one is the one on the upper right. Quadrant two is the one on the upper left. On the lower left is the quadrant three, and then the lower right is quadrant four. So I'm motivating students to use quadrants. I'm sure that their trigonometry teacher in the future will thank me for this. But for now, we're just naming the quadrants and the easy open-ended question. So next one. So then this is the site which I used a lot last year, wodb.ca. So from this website, you can find lots of pre-made ones. And was this one I used since I introduced Pythagorean theorem. I was working with perfect squares. So if you take a look, which one doesn't belong? The power and beauty of which one doesn't belong is that there's not just one correct answer, right? So students sometimes get bummed, oh no, I got the wrong answer. But here there's many possible answers. So let's say in quadrant three on the lower left, well, that's the only single digit one, right? So you could say that one. Well, on the upper left one, that's quadrant two. That's the only three-digit one, right? And then on quadrant, let's see, quadrant one, the 16. Well, that's a perfect square, right? And let's see what else we say would be unique about that one. Well, when you add up those digits, it's 7. Um, so that's not unique, but the one on the lower right, that's the only one that's the prime number, right? That's a non-perfect square. So notice that students they can just choose whichever one they want. So using this concept, I was starting to think, well, how about after like the 5th week of school, I said, well, it's time for the students to make one. So next slide. So here's my prompt for them. So after we've done this for several weeks, supplying my own ones from either from that website or making my own, I said, well, let me learn something about you students. Let me find out something about your culture, what's important to you. So I use food as a theme for them to show me which one doesn't belong. So this was the slide I gave it to them. I set it on Google Classroom to them. And then next slide. And here are my instructions to them. So insert 4 pictures, right, into each of the quadrants. And then I wanted them to at least give me 2 possible answers. So in the speaking notes in the Google slide, I asked them to go ahead and put the answer there, and then of course check which quadrant they're using. So here's the next slide is an example one that the students came back with. Take a look at that one there. And like they're all, well, quadrants 1, 2, and 3, they're all like sandwiches. The spaghetti on the quadrant 4. And then some students notice, oh, look at, there's a triangular sandwich in quadrant 1 there. And then I'll leave it like that so I can have time for the next slide. So next slide. So I wanted to just quickly touch on the protractor. So once we started the year, we were, just kind of uncertain. Well, what can we touch? What can we not touch? So I'm doing geometry, but I noticed that Edulastic has a protractor. And since I was a bit squeamish at the beginning, yet I didn't want to hand out protractors. Say, well, let's just use the protractor on Edulastic. So here on the left is an angle there, and in Edulastic, in the scratchpad, you can click on scratchpad. It will actually has a protractor tool which you can adjust and move around there. You can put it at the vertex there, and there was able to teach the students how to use a protractor without them actually handling it. So, and that's how I ended here. So on this question here, you have to click on the scratch pad, and then you can relocate the protractor. But then you click on the scratchpad again, and then you could put the answer back into that question.